Hey, you guys. Happy Sunday, everybody. Do love being here. I what day? This is like the third Sunday session. Um I feel like maybe 6 a.m.'s a bit early. But then I think about you guys who are like on the West Coast. 10 p.m. is more reasonable than like 2 in the morning. And then like 6 a.m. for us people here in the UK, it's not so bad. I mean, we can wake up, right? But it would appear that I'm not the only one who's a little tired. Look, I still have sleep marks, guys. That's quite a deep gouge of a sleep mark, to be honest. Look at it. It's like a proper indent in my face. Oh my G, you guys. Oh, look. And it's now accentuating where the wrinkle line is. Ha, ha. So today, I think I'm going to spend some time doing some self love. It's November 25th. I'm just being straight up, you guys. I'm tired today. My eyes feel foggy. I've not meditated. I've not become a clear channel of light vibration, love vibration for you this morning. Yesterday, I was processing quite a lot, but in a really cool and empowered way. Like, I felt suddenly like the superhero gifts are now integrating, and you're really feeling the expansion and like the transformation, sort of seeing it, witnessing, bearing witness to it from within myself as myself, being like, wow, you've really changed your life. You've really quite different as a human because you're not engaging with like the dominant collective agreements. Like I don't engage with any of that. And so like, and I'm thankful. One of you mentioned to I always get confused saying your name. I'm sorry. Your avatar name. But one of you guys was just reflecting back, like having appreciating the unique perspective around twin flame journey because regardless of what world or field of study we're in, we can get programmed, we can get nilped and LP'd into like buying in to a concept, like an idea about ourselves in life. And then before we know it, we're kind of acting out that concept, but possibly not as consciously as we might desire or think. And that's actually been definitely the continual kind of ego death, but then like learning. And again, I don't think ego is good or bad or right or wrong. Of course, it's just an aspect of consciousness that we've created to help us understand the multifacetedness of our humanity. um, and so in many different circles we can sit around and talk about the ego, and often the ego gets a bad rap. I don't think that anything that we create is inherently bad, like even the economy, even creation of money. Money isn't inherently bad. It's what we project onto it. It's what we, i.e., for a lot of people, money is bad because that's the story they tell. It was actually maybe a little bit for me because I was before this life cycle within one lifetime. I was an actor. And, I didn't feel comfortable being an actor. Look at this, you guys. I'm just going to be really fucking real and honest with you. I'm super tired. And like, I just, mid me, whatever I was talking about just then, I'm sure I somehow started talking about myself and my acting career, but like, halfway through talking about that, I was like, I have no idea what this is. I have no idea what this topic is about. Oh, twin flame journey, my unique experience, the uniqueness, being in the acting business, realizing like I wasn't kind of cut out for that. And then, yeah, breaking free from all of it. And all these years later, after breaking free, hey, Nathan's Gypsy, it's good. All these years later, breaking free from that, I can now see like, wow, I really shifted. I really transformed. All of these things I, talk about and practice in my own life are really, really quite extraordinary as far as this whole kind of collective agreement and collective dominant programs. I talk about it in the book. And again, I try to give people a fairly like clear cut, direct, and kind of easy to break down understanding of the karmic backlog, which is this idea that our reactive patterns are rooted in some very uh, past patterning as far as our linear timeline and construct goes in our humanity. So, like, and I do have talks about this with some clients, is that they actually have experiences where they're acting something out that the more aware they become, they're like, oh my God, like this imprint is from my grandmother, or like this imprint is from, yeah, the women in my family or the men in my family, right? We start to realize it and see it. And once, now that we're expanding our awareness that much, we have the support to ground, anchor in without being shamed, embarrassed, or ridiculed for the fact that we're all carrying these ancestral densities. I like to call them densities just because that's a really kind of detached way of perceiving um, density, darkness, baggage, hurdy, hurdy vibes, right? So, so yeah, I yesterday there was a double edge. There was some like kind of energetically fighting off some disparity, some density, but then at the same, not fighting it off, ugh, uh, feeling it and triggering some stuff that like was fairly like old school, like as in like my sensitivity and um people laughing, but then pretending it's one thing, but then me actually feeling an insecurity and kind of attack, and then me clearing that and healing that, and but then seeing more of my patterning, but I'm seeing quicker now. I'm seeing the pattern quicker and kind of halting it before I would go into the pattern. It's also with these recent breakthroughs and these breakdowns and shifts. Suddenly, I can I can talk this morning. Um, really suddenly like boom, like intuitive abilities, intuitive gifts are really like highlighted in my awareness, and I'm like, okay, I know what this is now. Like I can see the density, I can like root it out, I can feel the resistance, I can sheaths, I guess in yoga they call them like the sheaths and the layers. And this is also really beautiful, but like I'm so aware of the fact that we all have completely unique gifts. Yeah, so how we interpret energy and consciousness and feel into it is 100% unique. Probably why I venture with this whole like unique perspective stuff, and for us, without judgment. So it's not, I'm not like judging people on any kind of journey. I'm not judging people for like the worlds that they're living in, because I have freedom to create my own world. And so I kind of want that and share that with people. Like you get to choose your reality. You can have a twin flame journey if that's your desire. You can, like that's, everyone has a choice in how they're going to endeavor to feed energy and direct consciousness in their reality. I'm just somebody that for whatever reason, like I'm really aware of like, again, just blind consumption, and then also pack mentality, like group mentality, no matter how good intentioned it is, no matter how like positive in such a way, like when groups of people get together, and again, this is how we create, and so it's positive. I'm just aware of it feeling good, feeling positive. So like groups of people coming together to talk about all their problems, that doesn't necessarily always feel good to me. Or groups of people coming together to decide the fate of a million people without even engaging those million people, that doesn't necessarily feel good to me. At the same time, groups of people putting their minds and hearts together to figure out how to clean up the oceans, that sounds good to me. People coming together to share and up level, to share their past baggage so that they can up level, shift it, let it go, and move into their like greatest creatorship. That inspires me, that feels good to me. Like that's something as well, like working with people, it's just literally about making people believe in who they are. believe in themselves and trust, because the intuitive insights and the intuitive abilities and how we root them out from within ourselves. And that was something I think I spoke to one of you about cosmic origins, how we kind of reclaim our kind of stargate and our connection to the galaxy and our connection to a broader universal or cosmic connection in these um not these specific vessels, but we're just still an eternal aspect of this consciousness, right? And so how we remember various timelines of our existence that actually connect to why we're here, what we're doing here, and the purpose of our journey here, which again, it's all unique. Hence how I reveal to my own self my own intuitive gifts is completely unique. How I feel into them and interpret them and translate them is completely unique. And so it's important for us. We tend to, when maybe like have our initial awakenings and we start to get like, oh, what's happening, because I think there's a lot of shame and embarrassment and potential isolation and alienation. We will start to kind of mask some of the stuff that's coming up. And in my awareness, actually, some of the stuff that comes up for us is often part of our gift, part of our. So, for example, working with some of you, and then downloads will happen. So things will start, and this is why I really appreciate your guys' comments and your questions about stuff, because sometimes I need to go a little bit deeper on a subject, but I won't until you ask me. So that's really good. Hey, Kurt Mel. Hey, y'all. What up? So having a session with one of you, and the numbers, it was numbers and sequences of numbers started to come through. And like, I am not necessarily hardcore into numerology or any of that. And yet my intuition connected to that person's intuition can recognize, like, okay, there is something here for you though. And regardless, anyone kind of reflecting me or any of us here on this channel kind of like sharing, I would say there is an aspect of just resonance when it comes to like how we vibrate in the world, and we can continue to reflect positive stuff back to each other, and then question. And that's something as well that I really appreciate about this channel, is like, there's a lot of integrity here. Like, there's a lot of you guys that I can feel. It's not like everything I say you agree with. It's not like we're creating some kind of divisive authoritative, you know, aspect here. This to me feels like just open-hearted exchange and dialogue. And yeah, there's some trolley vibes from time to time, but not really. And and the reason I appreciate that is like, that's something in my life that, like, having been kind of ostracized or alienated or pushed aside, but then having to reclaim that within me, as in you get to see like part of me that was silenced basically. And that, like, now as I kind of reveal and share, what I appreciate is like when you guys reflect stuff back and you challenge it and you question it, because that forces me to go deeper and question myself. And like, I think that's something really important in our like humanness, is like, and actually this is step 5 in the Fearless Life Guide, because step 5 is like a turning point of like, okay, first 4 steps are kind of light and fluffy, like law of attraction, be grateful, go play, permission yourself to feel good, um, getting to know you. Like, so the first 4 steps in the guidebook are pretty, I mean, they're still fucking deep, but like, the way I feel into it anyway, is like, it's pretty light and fluffy. Get to step 5. Step 5 is called surrender knowing. And surrender knowing is literally like, could you just not be right? Like, could you just expand your mind enough so that you don't think you fucking know everything? I don't know. Is that possible? Because sometimes, like, I actually, there's like double edges to knowing in a mental way. Like, I know this. And there again, collective agreement. So, what, because 7 billion people pretend to know something, then it's true, then it's real? Not necessarily. It's just a collective imprint. It's just a whole bunch of minds saying, okay, let's hone in on this. Let's anchor this down. Yep, this is definitely real. Yep, this is definitely how we're going to create this reality. This is exactly how we're going to frame it. Let's do it. Boom. And then we all hop on. It doesn't. I would actually say that the framework that we have to work within as human beings is like way more malleable than what we've ever been taught to think, and a lot here's another thing, a lot safer. Like, we have so much more power than we think that, like, a lot of the collective agreements that create fear in us, like, we don't like, they don't have to be true. They don't have to be real. Like, we don't have to buy into all this agreement around, like, sugar is bad, potatoes are bad for you. Because, like, in my experience, like, it's only my consciousness that affects me, not external reality. But external reality only affects me if I go against my intuition, because my intuition kind of knows, like, that food's gonna fuck you up, or those people are gonna dick around with you, or whatever. And it's only when I go against that intuition that that my kind of circumstantial reality impacts me in an adverse way. But I care well. Um, when I stay in my alignment, it doesn't matter what I do, other than, like, I'm a bit tired and I'm like, maybe I should change the time of this, but I don't want to right now. One thing I realized recently is that we never evolve personally and collectively if we never question authority. Nice one. Yeah. And that's kind of like, I don't know, like, all this journey stuff, all this life stuff is so, like, weird and wonderful and paradoxical, right? Like, that's the whole point of adolescence. Yeah, and it must continue, and I'll encourage it. Like, I'll encourage you guys, and I do, to, like, be active in your communities in such a way, and or especially if there's, like, young ones starting to, like, rise up, like, listen to them. Because if anything, like, there's a lot more fierce power in some of the younger, like, like, just, I would say, teenagers, like, young ones coming of age have a lot more kind of fire, whereas once we kind of go through higher education and or we head into the workforce, we tend to get even more, like, nummified or mummified rather. So there's a lot of really powerful energy coming from this sort of demographic. This, I'm feeling into, like, sort of 13 above, 13 to maybe early 20s in America, but then also in this country. Some of you know, some of you have been open enough to share that what's happening, right? So um yeah, there's that kind of underlying collective unrest. And it actually goes along with what I'm seeing, where even that seems to be changing now. Um I know, but then I would say it actually has to do with the fact that there's the polarity, because I get that, and I'm in that right now, that belt of flip of, like, my heart feels like, no, the world is fucking changing, like, hell's to the yizza. And then, and I'm like, in my heart space, like, no, people are like you, but we're not quite seeing it just yet. And part of the discipline here is that in the contrast, we can actually bounce back. And this, and I'm being straight, like, this is part of my contrast, is that you guys know how, like, hopeful and, like, new paradigm and, like, new world order, and not, I don't like using that word because I think there's negative connotations around new world order. Like, no, 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 you're not going to come back and call it something different, but then just reorder the enslavement fucking grid. New world, just new world. Let the world show us rather than let's fucking try to squeeze it into a box. No. Um, so part of my contrast when I'm just in my day-to-day life, especially, you guys know I commute to London, so I'm like, I'm suddenly find myself in this last um 7 months or so, really eh, being guided back into bigger collective energy fields, right? So, like, places like London and Brighton, and traveling cross country, connecting with some of you who are up north, connecting with some of you who are in the Midlands. So there's a few of you in this tribe who are kind of, like, a little bit all over. Um, and here again, the part of the kind of fear is that it's real, like, as in, so we can think about all this new paradigm awesomeness, but hey, girl, hey, y'all. Yeah, definitely, Kurt Mill. That's usually the language I use as well. The new paradigm, the new world paradigm, which really, it's one and the same. Like, we are the new paradigm, and hence the new paradigm is birthing, creating the new world, right? That's right. And again, a new economy, a new structure of energetic exchange can be made manifest as we shift our paradigm, as we continue to base ourselves in our heart rather than in that projection, that mental knowing, that mental grip, like knowing, it feels so limited to me. Like, yeah, I know that. And I'm like, oh my God, there's so much pain and resistance. um, which again is just part of this like enhancing like superpowers um invasion of telepathic communication, seeing through the veils of humanity, like really rooting out densities, which again most of us of this generation anyway, we're just carrying stuff of our ancestors, and it's really good for us to clear it consciously. It's just there's a lot of fear sometimes that we have to bust through and break through to move through it. 622 here. I see the economy as just the way we get and give resources. Yeah. I mean, oh God, it's so true. And this is the thing of like when we ourselves become more clear, it's really clear what an economy actually is, right? We're just it's an exchange. And we have this globe, this beautiful earth, and it provides all this good awesomeness, right? And we are intelligent enough beings to find ways of cultivating and living in union. You're living in harmony with the planet, which just means not thinking she's separate from us and then dominating her and raping and pillaging her, because that's kind of how I see like a lot of the corruption of the oil trade and the distribution of wealth, and kind of like, the corrupted system, which just enslaves people. And like it's all connected to the oil, but then on a higher divine level, like, so this is kind of a weird insight, but I had this insight a couple years ago where I was like, oh, the oil has to be purged. How weird of an insight is that? I just knew intuitively. I'm like, oh, like oil as a substance on this planet, like it's almost like black sticky tar density. We talk about corrupted darkness. We talk about like the grids and like the false grids. This oil has to come out of the earth. And no matter what we think on the 3D level of how much destruction we're actually doing, there is a divine sort of benevolence out of what we think the destruction is. There's still a deeper rebirthing process happening. Uh, Nice, right? And it is. We learning how to operate from this new paradigm way of perceiving economy is quite radical. I still have like people, some not less and less actually, kind of like telling me how to run a business. I'm like, no, we're on a completely different frequency. That's not how new paradigm business works, y'all. It actually has very little to do with like um progress in progress that sees progress as just how much money and bottom line, and a company that just goes up and up and up and up in money. I'm like, no, that's a fucked up economy. That's a distorted economy. That's an economy that destroys its host, right? Because it's not connected to its host. They just don't have endless gain, you know? We ebb and flow, we cycle, we recycle around. And I've actually just published, or I've sent in my article for Badassery Unleashed, which talks a little bit about, the tools, including unplug, relax more, meditate more. And I mention something that's relevant now. I want to read some of your comments here that I never knew about an economy before this year. I always thought it was just politics and money. I know, right? There's just so many like next level awakenings happening in all of us, and then more and more people. So it's pretty wild. I literally have this like a sleep mark that's not going away on my face. um Yeah, it's true. Economy was money, and learning some recently. My business maybe not before. I wonder if Quincy is appropriate for me. I don't know. I've gone direct company because for me, it's like I want to show everybody. I want to show everybody. So and this is like another angle for me, right? Is that I don't really. What am I trying to say? Um Oh, it's like a shift from seeking capital to creating health and well-being. Totally. And then you can see that when your dominant focus just becomes your wellness and like your expansion and your ability to feel good, like accumulating stuff just to power over people, like having stuff just to prove ourselves becomes again old paradigm. And that's something I can increasingly feel with like the rising levels of resistance, but then also a desire for change is that there's people at different trajectories in their lives that have followed through with the main program and like you have lots of stuff that but they're not happy and they're kind of following again the program and getting to different whether they're 32 or whether they're 42 or whatever and they're having these awakenings going what the fuck am I doing with my life, why do I have all this stuff and why don't I feel connected to it? Because a lot of it is programming, because we're not connected to it, because our hearts aren't invested in the jobs that we have and the people we've accumulated or the people that we've gathered around us, because we're just following what we're told. We're just following the dominant fucking mass program rather than actually connecting mind to heart and living as authentic vessels of divine fucking grace, and then creating from that place of authenticity. Because none of us are at all are going to be the same on this journey. None of us are going to have the same gifts or anything. Oh, right. Yeah. It becomes rather ugly to use power over. Thanks, Rochelle. Have to wait it out and watch others react while exemplifying a new lifestyle. It's true. And it's just gonna be what it is, and fortunately, at least we're kind of flowing with it. Like, I think it's integrating, crystallizing. I use the word, with Rochelle, anchoring. Anchoring to me is just exactly kinda how it sounds. It's that we're anchoring the new code. So, to me, there's a little bit of a cyclical process that we have an emotional upheaval or shift, and then at some point, we'll have, like, a space where there's download. So that means, like, energetically and or in your perspective awareness, you have like us things happen that are kind of new but familiar, new to you, new to like, whoa, what's that? Or like, oh my God, I just saw a being, or oh my God, I'm feeling and da da da. So like you're suddenly aware of stuff that maybe was once invisible to you, or maybe it still is invisible, but you're so, and that has to do another 30-minute session I had was about like the knowing. And this is part of awakening is you're awakening, and this is from Lisa Transcendence Brown, but you're awakening to remember. So we take off those veils, we like open our inner eye, and then we awaken, and then we have to remember, which means we through our life experience after the awakening, it's like we have a life experience where we're having to integrate. We have to remember who we are, remember, which is us putting ourselves back together again, right? Remembering, member, put your members back together. Because in a weird way, being a slave and like living in the 3D, like matrix reality has been like traumatizing as beings, right? Hey, you guys. You just want to share more and more. I know. So, and oh, nice insight, Kurt Mel. That's same. I get that. So I'm like sharing more and more, but every cycle with like putting myself out there and sharing more and more, there's like a recycling of how I understand boundaries and how I'm understanding my sovereignty and my polarities and how I can contain that, but not get swept up in other people's and instead like having space. And that's, I guess, part of a boundary or an energy bubble is like, um, yeah, being able to be present with people's energy and just not get triggered and swept into it. It happened to me yesterday. So it's really good, like, next cycle of like, okay, now there's less trigger. And in the beautiful cosmic way, like as soon as that trigger hit me, it's like I could feel in where it was coming from in the other person. So there's like a lot more kind of quick and instantaneous access to like our awareness and what we're feeling into. And all of this is because of you guys, like in us generally, like all of it is us from within ourselves getting more clear, getting honed in on our gifts. It's like we've started a X-Man school and we're just sharing. This is us having like lectures on how we've manage to like harness more of our potent, unique mutant. People talk, I use the language transformation. A lot of people in this world talk about transmutation. I feel like that's quite next level. Um, but bearing in mind, to me, transmutation would be very much like when we actually can move, and some beings can, but we can sort of teleport or move from one dimensional reality to another in form. So transmutation to me is a little bit next level paradigm. Once we ascend to this, like what people call fourth density via the fifth density kind of like consciousness gateway. And then once we're living more dominantly and vibrationally in a kind of fifth density and higher, then we'll have like a very direct and obvious gift of transmutation where we are actually mutating ourselves into, say, a being of light, or mutating myself into cosmic stardust so I can travel to a different, just dimensional, a different realm. So we could, like, in these bodies, go to different star systems. Now, a lot of us have that conscious awareness in our awareness, right? That's part of our connecting to cosmic origins, is that we actually remember moving through different vortexual, like energetic grid systems, that it's almost like doorways, universal doorways, that are very much like that, really like a tunnel of fast light that you move through. So some of us have memory of those experiences, not to mention like galactic wars and stuff, which is and again, this is like the weirdness of like love and light community. But even in the love light community, I'm like, that's why I really believe in our duality. And in a such, not our duality as a negative thing, but in our omnipresence and our omnipotence, is that we are the light and the dark. I have it within me to be like a dark master, like, because I can see on a galactic and universal level, like I have been in war situations, and that would have been a choice on a soul level, right? And yet on this planet, that's not the choice. That's not my free will desire. Otherwise I'd be doing it. I'd be raging war like with other humans, but that's not my chosen path for this one. Hey, you guys. No sense of the boundaries, 4D. I just mean, remember, they're indoctrinated by their upbringing. Yeah, for sure. I understand it better just using the words like health is the new health, is the new wealth, co-creative mutuality. Kurt Mel, I am with you. Thank you. I don't know, and I guess maybe that 45D stuff is just like relevant. I also Brazenar, I'm like Brazenar. I'm totally with you, by the way. I guess maybe for some people it's useful to have an understanding of a motion, of a like a movement, of an ascension. I think there's an element of giving people hope that there is a scientific understanding. There is a cellular, quantum, scientific understanding of the change and transformation that we as beings are going through or undergoing. Dirt Master MJ. Right, exactly, they did. I know. Hey, John. Hey, you guys. Dude, John, you missed the beginning because that was me going, pooh, I'm so tired. Spatial rather than mental perspective. Is it possible to have a dark guide one? What do you mean by that? Is it possible to have a dark guide one? And Brazen, I have no sense of, I just move. If I've not seen you here, but I totally resonate with what you're saying, FYI. Hence, for me personally, have like a really unique perspective is that, like, I don't know. I'm just aware, like, I'm not necessarily living in the same perspective reality or wavelength or frequency reality than a lot of people that I'm witnessing. At the same time, in my experience of life, it just flows. I sometimes joke with people about being like, "Oh, hey!" I sometimes joke around people about being like, "And now I'm here, and now I'm doing this, and now I'm doing this, and now I'm here." Like, the construct of time as like a limited thing where I'm like, I have to here, and now I'm here, and now I have to be here. That is gone completely, right? And oh, thank you for letting me know who you are, Leaf. Because yeah, familiarity, right? And I do, and I get you with the like, and I kind of appreciate that reminder because I also don't like going into the 4D, 5D stuff because I think sometimes it's like the twin flame journey. I think sometimes it gets a little bit convoluted and then it becomes like another kind of mass delusion or almost like an entrapment of this whole freedom game. And I guess maybe that's why people don't do it or sell it because you can't manipulate people into buying stuff. But that's freedom. You're your freedom. You're your only freedom. You can't buy freedom. You can't. Uh, Identification is limitation. Yeah. It kind of it can narrow us, right? And that's something it's continual uh it's just relentless, but sometimes in a really blissful, loving way, sometimes in a really deeply painful way. Ah, John, hi. I want to go back to what you said. One dark guide. That makes sense. Duality, separation, all becoming one has been a theme for me this week. Yeah, nice one. Okay, so that connects into what Leaf's talking about like we don't see things in like levels and angles anymore. We're just flowing. Like we're just moving, right? And and it's only when we're really attached to and or invested in some kind of identification, some kind of worldly fixation, and this is the polarity, is that so often those identifications and worldly fixations are actually, we keep bumping up against them. It's because they're distracting us from something we're not looking at from within ourselves, and so we're looking for it. We want the identification to make us feel safe. We want the identification to distract us from the fact that we're probably running away from some deeper like emotional wounding or like parental whatever, and that's just something I'm noticing depending on where we are in our life path. Like the meds stop working and the diet stops working or da da da. And yet even when we're faced with the potential to heal, we can still resist it because we don't want to feel the pain that's there. Nice, we were all rainbow of emotions. I'm just asking out of curiosity. Hey MJ, speaking of economy and paradigm, you mentioned a few videos ago that an economy may be coming. Do you have any idea what time frame that would happen? There's Pluto Saturn conjunction that could bring that in. See, yeah, dude. Like you have the awareness and we have the awareness. For some reason, and this has been coming up for some of you who I had calls with, actually, it keeps coming in for me as well, but there seems to be a 16 to 18 month timeline right now. And for some reason, I feel very much like this is a transitory timeline. So like we're transitioning. We're kind of scooping up as many as possible as far as transitioning from that old worldview into this one. But it feels like we have to integrate and like anchor, as in really be in our knowing, really, really kind of be in our heart-filled knowing. Uh, Even though that's not some kind of stable, like that's how it is now, there's a difference, right? And so we embody that difference. So let's say we have 16 to 18 months and we're really, yeah, it's really like, uh okay, so the collapse has like happened. It's already like dissolved on an energetic level. It's like the economy as we once were told it is, but is really actually just like a slave program. That is is actually kind of gone. Even though we're not seeing it on the physical level, we're still seeing a lot of 3D matrix kind of like function in that economy. That as an inherent grid structure on this planet is no more. That's the only thing we mean by collapse. It doesn't mean necessarily like chaos or anything. And so because of that, yeah, we're in a transition as humans, as a species on this planet, we're transitioning. And if you can imagine, if you tear a building down, there's a whole bunch of like foundational structural work that needs to happen. So I would say right now on an energetic level that we, a lot of us anyway, in this community, we're in a yeah, a transitory kind of, the building's done and collapsed, and I feel like if you imagine another like way of perceiving the timeline, like, so we're at the point of kind of staring at ground zero. Does that make sense, Kurt Mill? Yeah. Yeah, there's so many ways of perceiving the shift, and the collapse is part of the shift in such a way. And so we've, yeah, it's happened, and like a lot of us in our beingness are, like I said, just staring at ground zero going, okay, now what? It, and in our personal lives, there might be a lot of us having this energy of like rising from the phoenix. It's like every past life, every past incarnation, every past projection, all of it is fucking showing itself to you. It's like being, it's like dying in that, in the way that like a lot of conventional construct is, like your whole life flashes before your eyes. You guys might be having experiences and death experiences where your whole previous life flashes before you, but it's not you anymore. You're dead to that life. That life has gone through its cycle, its program, and now it's over. There's a lot of energy being drawn into what we call the Earth Akashic record. The Earth Akashic record is like every infinite memory and every creation on this realm, and we're having to really kind of honor, contain, and totally love every aspect of ourselves right now. Every single aspect of creation that we've ever created, and every other timeline, we can see it, love it, hold it, and bring it into this present moment. Because here in this present moment now is where we are at the 0 point, and where we're having the ability to really rise ourselves like a phoenix. Yeah, rebirthing this creative construct, right? Thanks, dude. That's my perspective. I and the dark night of the soul stuff that can often kind of rebirth and keep happening, but it gets easier because we're not in denial of those darker, denser aspects. So riding them out becomes a little bit more intense. But to be honest, like my first dark night of the soul, it was like, yeah, people, you might think something's up. You might sort of question, maybe I should just go to the doctor and get Prozac, right? Because the dark night of the soul can be kind of this very deeply burdensome experience. But the beauty of it is that the truth is that there's, it means just that a part of you that doesn't need to be here, that's dying. That's all. And then on the other side of the dark night of the soul, you're better and feeling more wonderful, right? My, for me, my whole basic way. Yeah. Ooh, interesting. Ooh, I love it. Hmm. Mm. You guys are awesome! Yeah! I could just sit here and read. I just cut off communication with long-term friend relationship. Was scared to do it, but once I committed, I felt lightness within hours. Huge stuff. Hey, manifest. Ah, every day. Awesome. See protests, rising up, activism. All of it is this like continual rising up. Brazen hair, brazen hair, brazen hair. You're awesome. And by the way, well done. Because yeah, I've had a lot of endings. I've had some new beginnings, which have been also beautiful. And then I'm having a review right now, which is highly, highly interesting. But it's again triggering contrast. So some of it's like light and fluffy and nice. Other of it, I'm like, yeah, need to get out of here. So it's all good. Phew! What a roller coaster listening to you. I know. Think about what it's like living my life. And I get that. People just like tune out when I'm vibrating or saying something that just doesn't quite equate. They're just like, What are you actually talking about? I'm like, I don't know, but clearly we're not tuned in right now because we're not meeting at all. Anyway, you guys, my idea of the collapse period is that we're already spun off various timelines where we'll go into another dark age. The one we're in now seems like one will rise up into activism. MJ, you just actually feel yeah, that's the point, I think, of any like speaker. The reason we end up speaking is because that's our experience as well. Because I can see you speaking as well, John, but like you speak because other people are saying shit. You're like, yeah, yeah, right, fucking right. That's true. Like, is anyone else having those thoughts? And you're like, fuck it, I'm just gonna share what I'm thinking because some people out there in the internet world are probably fucking thinking the same shit, right? And then we keep breaking through. We keep breaking free. FJ is rezzing with us. You guys are awesome. I want to go back to Kurt Mill in the Dark Ages. Kurt, I would love for you to talk a little bit more about your perspective and insight about the collapse because it's a big one for you. I can feel some of you have a lot of energetic insight with that. In the next few years, people will be questioning everything that is on the status quo. The way we do life simply won't last. So that's it. That is it. Like that is the paradigm shift. And we don't have dominion, and that's part of it. We're not here to control and manipulate people. We're not here to dictate to the masses the way they're going to awaken, but we are here to be the presence that we are. And it's us being standing true and standing tall in the presence that we are that is part of the shift. It's one and the same thing. People who are newly awakening, they're going to need guides, assists, helpers, gatekeepers, whatever, way showers, all the different language. We twin flame. No. And oh, sorry guys, my battery of light, my light, guys, my light went out. I have no light left. I do have an infinite light source because we are all fucking eternal elixirs of the light of the universe, infinitely badass. Yeah, activism is a big part of it. I mean, okay, so on another level, when you're asking about the economic collapse, and this is stuff like I don't talk about a lot because sometimes I feel like it can instill fear, but yeah, like activism, protests, civil unrest, chaos, hunger, this is another like other side of it all is like part of me and creating a new paradigm business is investing in projects that I feel personally should be invested in, not in where our current corporate dictators dictate, money should be spent or any of that kind of shit, i.e. fucking much. So for me, it's like accumulating wealth to funnel that and direct it in. So I ramble on. Economic collapse is kind of scary thing, and it can bring up some significant disparity. So to counteract that, it's like things like funneling money into what I call the new paradigm community, which is usually helping us to remember and learn again how to grow our own food, create our own food. It's really back to basics in a way, Kurt, as well. It's like, for me, the economic collapse is also so we have technology and the continuing evolution of technological advances as we unlock our own portal of like higher frequencies. The technology is going to be a big piece in seeing us through the transition. And of course, the polarity of that is chaos. It's obvious, right? We can already see it. Mass migration and displacement because of war is part of the collapse. People like, and we might be all putting life is glossy and glam and da da da. But with our social medias and with all of our media, in fact, we might still be trying to paint a picture of like everything is wonderful and hunky dory. It's not though. And like this is part of the wake up call is like none of it. This is intense stuff. This is big stuff. This is global revolution stuff. This is and a global revolution. There's always going to be contrast, pain, chaos, destruction, like heavy duty destruction. What we're here to remind ourselves and remind one another, we ourselves are the hope. We're the hope. That not the technology, not the politicians, it's us. It's just normal fucking earthlings, nobody earthlings from in different parts of the world who decided that world ain't for me. It hurts me. So I'm going to just be quiet and I'm going to power down. I'm going to feel into what is better, what serves me better. And this is us. This is us on the other side of breaking free from that world and saying, now what? Now what are we going to do, right? This is just my idea. The thing that's collapsing is any and all forms of violence, particularly intentional violence that we inflict on each other and the planet. Yeah. Yeah, because it's painful. Intuition, faith in the universe, and present awareness will carry us through the economic 100%. And we're protected. Intuition, faith. Faith is a huge theme right now, by the way, Leaf, as well. Present awareness will carry us through and an economic collapse. Because we are already being carried through. I mean, I say this with as much love and compassion, and you can always reach out and share stuff if you need to. We are protected. And every one of you that I have had calls with this last couple weeks, like, I can feel it. I know that we're protected. I know that you might be having crazy fucking shit enter your life, but it's entering your life because you have the power to transform it. And you're reviewing these patterns because you have the power to transform it. And you're engaging with someone like me because we have the power to transform it or rise up. And this is like another angle, but it's probably a little extreme. And I'm very aware of it being possibly coming from an egoic, grandiose place. But like, sometimes I just see like us, like we could potentially be put in leadership roles in such a way. Some of you are, right? Some of you are, as far as like how to lead your community through the disparity, how to organize your community to make sure that there's going to be enough food and clean water. Like really basic things, but like in such a way, us having this conversation means that we're already on the other side of the collapse and we're pioneering the new, which means that we're leading the masses, we're leading this consciousness shift in as far as how can we stay present, aware, what did you say, awareness, presence, faith. We have to drop in, we have to anchor that presence in so that these waves continue to show us the next direction and the next direction, and eventually we will see more organizing power on a mass level. But I don't have a timeline on that because there's so many minds to congregate and unify, right? And so there's only divine timing. All I know is that in many ways, life will continue to get kind of more supported, loving, and kind of fun and badass for us. But at the same polarity, there's deepening our responsibility, deepening our sense of commitment to the self. That's the discipline that's required, right? And I can honestly say, eventually, you just get to the discipline is your life. You don't think about it in like, oh no, I have to meditate today, or oh no, I have to go live. It's like, no, this is just the flow. I don't dictate anything in my life. I just flow with it. So that's the presence. It's like being a transparent fucking canvas. I have nothing to hide, but I also have nothing to give in that regard. I can only give of the self and then be open to receive it. Oh my God, you guys. Power is turning into resource. Ooh, interesting. Kurt Mail. I feel like I could sit with that one for a while. Power is turning into the resource, but that's like what did you say? Health is the new wealth, right? Power, the old construct of power is money, to power over, to veil, to like, that, what's that expression? Smoke and mirror. See, no, it's all good. You just take the money. That all of that's getting lifted, right? So the power is actually our inherent power. And that's what this is the new resource is, our ability to be well, right? Healthy, happy beings. That's the new resource, the true power. And weirdly, it can often be a little bit weird getting to that place and not what you think, I don't do anything. It's weird as well, being kind of dip into like an old environment or an old world. And you're like, oh, people still totally like buy into all that. And I'm totally not in that. And then sometimes you feel it makes people insecure when you don't follow the rules. And then even people who pretend to be quite secure, you can really see the insecurity come out, and you're like, yeah, I don't. Anyway, it's funny. Yeah, Kurt, I kind of feel intuitively like this is it. This is the stuff. This is what we're talking about. This is the new paradigm, as in new ways of relating to one another. New and much more conscious and harmonious ways of distributing the world's resources and all of that kind of stuff. There is a grid And I don't this is where it's intuitive and just in the kind of light awareness, but there is a grid. So when you talked about like the old paradigm's already gone, it's collapsed, it's like those energetic structures have left the dimensional realm of this earth that we're living in. And so the collapse, what's being anchored in now, oh my god, 16 to 18 months, that could actually make perfect sense. So energetically, it's like we're downloading and then integrating and then we're having to anchor in, and then that's the new grid, and then we whatever is going to be born in over these next 16 to 18 month cycle is what we're basing our new reality from. And so it'll be really interesting to watch manifestation unfold and be created in front of us, and I think this is really fun, so we should definitely keep sharing. How much had the internet catalyzed this movement? Massive. I actually think sometimes it is. So the creation of the internet is our quantum leap manifestation. If you think about, the internet is what's helped us to see the global reality, the global village. There are a lot of us of our generation, we're in our 30s now, we're coming into our power. We didn't have TV. What, you know what I'm saying? Does that make sense? We don't know a world without media. We don't know a reality without internet and technology. And in fact, I mean, the weird polarity of our generation specifically, I'm an 80s baby, is that we were the last generation as well that didn't grow up with the internet. All the 90s kids had phones and had internet by the time they were engaging in learning, from those critical primitive ages, early ages. A lot of us now coming into our 30s and mid 30s, we still grew up like with nature and toys and like interacting with other humans before the devices came in. So there's a real nugget in this kind of 80s generation of the service that we are here to provide for our brothers and sisters, of this generational shift. Now, they talk about this, every generation has a revolution of sorts. The only difference with this one, which many of us light workers will vibrate, is that it's not just a revolution in France, it's not just in Europe. This is a global paradigm shift. This is like a bigger change than we have ever witnessed, even in our history books. When people talk about a revolution, the energetic downloads and transitions and transformations that are happening on a global level are like beyond what most of us can conceive in our mind, and yet they are being born. We will have disclosure, we will have alien visitations, we will manifest dynamic economic portals of change. We're just a little bit ahead of the game. We're just like a little bit out in front, intuiting all this, while a lot of people are still blind, you know? Oh my God, Kurt Mill, straight up, localized production. That I got that insight yesterday. Yesterday, I was like, that's another part of the shift. Loads of humans are going to start to put money into independent businesses, small localized production. Like, that's my thing with All to Love as well. Like, all the money, like, so I produce online courses to help people unplug, go zero waste, get spiritual, and go vegan. And I'm like, all the money I make, other than like supporting my life and supporting Team Love, any profit goes back into these local communities, gardens. I really like the idea of going to councils here in this country, in the UK. Council estates are just sometimes like more like affordable housing or low income families and stuff like that. And I often think about going into those kind of communities and like doing gardens, like helping people create gardens, or even just like simple things like teaching people about decorating. I know that seems maybe even superficial, but I really don't think it is. Like having plants in your house, making sure to open the windows and open some, get some fresh air in your house, having artwork up on the walls, having color, all of these things actually, and having clarity in space. So making sure there's not a lot of clutter, and making sure that you can clean out your cupboards and make space, right? Feng shui, get that space moving through. All of these things are really good. Oh, and what you said, MJ, is that money will be seen as something to support quality of life rather than, dude, that is such a nugget. That is like one of the tiniest but like crucial nuggets in the Fearless Life Guide that I'm still reminded of, and I still practice from within myself. Another way to look at the paradigm shift is just that no longer are we humans trying to get from the world and get from one another. The paradigm shifts. It reverses on itself. My way of perceiving and interacting with people is, how can I give? And it's not about how can I give as a martyr. It's about how can I give from my highest place of joy. This is why I am who I am. I'm a homebody, but I want to share. I want to give. I want to exchange with people, right? So internet has provided me the opportunity to live my most optimal, easy, abundant, loving life and still share on the highest level so that people can keep sharing because you guys share with me. This is how I see benevolence. I give from my purest heart space, and then I receive this pure heart space in a beautiful way that people resonate who understand what I'm saying after having lived a life of ridicule and persecution. 11, it's just gone 1 hour, 11, and one thumbs up, not in a powerless way. Giving is so crucial. Exactly. Giving is the new paradigm, and we can tell the difference. And this is the beauty of Intuish. People can give, but it's not pure. Guys, people can give, but I can feel the little tentacle cords trying to, like, you're giving because you want something from me. There's a difference. There's a difference, right? And I'm somebody who's just breaking free from these people pleasing tendencies and a little bit of like girly, why did I say that? Just naivety as far as like giving. And I'm thinking everybody else wants to give. And then I'm like, no, people have been really deeply programmed to take and steal. And because there's so much fear. That's how I see it as well. That's how I have so much compassion for people. It's only fear that makes people steal and take. And Black Friday, Black Friday, Black Friday, because Black Friday is literally triggering everybody's insecurity. Look, everybody, you got to shop today. Trigger, 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 trigger. And that makes everybody go crazy. Okay, you guys, it's over an hour. So I feel like that's like a good amount of time. And I'm going to go do stuff. That's awesome, John. I love you guys. Oh, guys, I think I missed some comments. The first one is free. What are you guys talking about? Oh, yeah, John's definitely leading a movement in his area. Eventually, we'll no longer use money. Totally. That makes about right. See, I think it. So when you're saying 2060s and 70s, I kind of vibe you there. Like, as in, some people are like, never gonna happen. It's gonna take forever. And I'm like, okay, like, I'm not that delusional. Like, I feel like we could stop using money and shift the economy in a totally uplifted way. And I do think we're gonna start to see the movement in my lifetime. However, that your timeline makes about sense. I'm 30. That's like 30, 40. Says I'm probably gonna live to about my 80s. I'm not intending to be here forever. Okay, you guys. So yeah, actually, you're pretty spot on. Like, I, in my heart, my realistic, fucking pure heart, I actually believe we're going to start to really see movement and changes in this lifetime. And I think the internet is a big piece because something I'm aware of with the battle of the light and dark and a universal aspect is that once it takes off, it really takes off. So this movement for a lot of us in our conscious awareness has just been taking for fucking ever, man. Like, why is everyone still asleep? And why is the economy still fucking ticking over like nothing's going on? And it's because there's a whole bunch of different things that have to line up, and then lids start exploding, and then suddenly we're anchored in and we know exactly what's happening, what's coming, and how to direct. I don't know, we're being guided, right? So we'll just have to stay present with all of that. There's some useful and juicy nuggets here, you guys. So I agree with you, Kurt Mel, and a lot of people probably would think we're being a little bit idealistic or unrealistic, but I don't think we are. I think that 50, 60-year timeline is probably really quite accurate because we don't even fucking realize the shift that we're going to see in the next 10 years, 5 years even. 5 years, 10 years, and then we'll be whole new people vibrating whole new frequencies, pioneering whole new movements in that moment on that level because of some of the ensuing chaos that we're going to see based on the corruptions being revealed and the fact that the masses are waking up. Let's be honest, awakening can be really hella scary and weird. And so imagine another billion people waking up en masse. It's going to be a little bit mad. Same. And it's undeniable. The next wave are already vibrating it. Young people, that's why I like Alta Love. I love all of you guys and I'm open to everybody. And I have people of all walks of life who are here with us today, right? And join and have chats with me and my friends, right? Holla, taking the Fergan. All right, Marcus Graham, like, holy shit, could you just crumble already? Like, we're ready for you, right? Hola, everyone. Oh, you guys, I fucking love you guys so much, right? To the whole planet as everyone wakes up. Nice one, John. So, yeah, we can just keep imagining people waking up. And then the fact that somehow we'll just be offered the tools, the gifts, the resources, the benevolence to keep supporting each other through. Because that's like another thing, is not letting each other fucking fall. And this, during this great awakening, we have to just love each other, be here for each other to the best of our ability. But we don't really have answers for each other in that regard. We all have our own gifts to reveal, right? We will be there for them. I know we will. Thing is, we are, just in being able to have this conversation, just vibrating this open-hearted space. This is us like anchoring really beautiful energy for our bros. I was gonna say our bros and hoes on the planet, but that's not very nice, is it? Especially a women's studies major. My brothers and sisters, not my brothers and hoes. I mean, how derogatory is that? So yeah, Kurt Mail, the next waves of generation, like I'm open to everyone, but like I got the insight last May in Ibiza, and I just was lying on the beach, and it was literally one of those very distinctive light bulb moments. I'm like, oh, that's All to Love is really for the next wave. You know, All to Love is a company, a brand, a movement, or whatever that's for these young generations of people coming into their power, 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds all over the world, ultimately. And it's for us as well, because we have to continue to have the conversation, right? Doesn't matter how old we are. In fact, age is becoming less and less of a thing in New Paradigm, because it only works in linearity. Age in such a way doesn't work when you're starting to do cycling, because we're all infinite. As souls, we're all infinite. So we don't have an age, really. Anyway. Oh, look, more stuff. Get out Neptune, retrograde, intuition, dreams about to be more lit. Nice one. See, you guys are just awesome. I love that you have this stuff. We simply won't take it if we say stuck in the system we are. Exactly. So the more we pay for them now, the easier we to take the words. And this is what I think is, like, we're just these kind of conversations, us meeting up here, all this kind of stuff. It's literally just like clearing more paths. Great speakers out there, right, Pepe? This is the thing, right? You guys know we're like, let's say we're like woke, whatever that means, but like, well, we know what it means. But it's like there's great speakers, and this is the thing about New Paradigm reality. It's like it's already there. All the wonderful teachers and speakers, it's all here, right? We're totes woke. You guys are amazing. And Omega, thank you for that insight. I feel like Kurt Mill as well, you often have really good insights around astrology. Thanks so much for all of you guys like chatting to one another and like supporting one another. I think that is pure badassery. Speaking of badassery, I'm going to go submit my article to Badassery Unleashed magazine. Totes woke. I'm actually making an astrology calendar right now. Amazing. I will buy it. As long as it's zero waste. Maybe it's digital. Oh yeah, and you guys can buy the Zero Waste course if you want, or Spirituality Simplified. I want to do some kind. I've been thinking. Let me know what you think about this. This is like some just idea about me creating Spirituality Simplified and how I'm going to go to Bali and I'm going to start creating the content. And I'm like trying to swindle deals for you guys as far as like, how can I get people to buy it now instead of waiting until January? And I'm like, because some of you guys are pretty like in this little posse. I'm like, would you want a deal? Like, would you buy it if it was like 88 pounds instead of 144 and then be part of this very, very exclusive little clique of people that get to watch stuff before I produce it or publish it live? And then maybe you get feedback, or you could like test try the course on my behalf for mega cheaps, and then, or just for mega deal, and then feedback to me. So give me some like testimonials and do all that. Basically help me help the world. Anyway, you guys, I think that's it. Rochelle, I don't want to call you ho though. I don't want people calling me ho, so I don't want to call girlfriend. I don't want to call you ho. Yeah, no hope, but even if you are, you're still loved by God, so it's fine. Time is perspective, right? Yeah, it is. Fully. So frustrating and dense and painful, right? Being like asleep in the world and then waking up and trying to like fit back into the world and you're like, help! Fuck it hurts! What the fuck? And then you just and then decide, actually I have to go. How does these are you guys, like I get this real sense of creators, this real sense of like really cool, fun, eccentric creators from all over the world. Leaf Brazenha. Where are you in the world? I feel like you might be somewhere in America. I really believe I'm growing younger. It's working too. Omega, I'm totes with you, by the way. I do loads of like unique self healing stuff where I'm like, if people only knew what I was doing inside my consciousness, everybody would want to try it. But it's a little bit radical and out there. It's still I still need to ramp up my inner fire before I can share the next level, kind of manifesting in our bodies and living on this realm however we choose, basically in total health and well-being. Montana, cool dude. Nice. See, John, Beanie, I get that, right? Happy Sunday, everybody. Oh my God, I love you all so much. Brazener, thank you so much for joining us here. That's really cool because I sometimes I don't get the crossover, but it's starting to happen, and I really like. I love it. I mean, like it just means a real nice community. I'm a 20-year-old, 90-year-old. Nice, Omega. Thank God for the internet. I feel the same way. I feel the same way. Um, Omega, thank you, Kurt, John, Rochelle, Leaf, Manifest Nation. I think Ninth House Gypsy was here with us as well. Omega, really appreciate your insights around astrology. Ooh, Marcus, Marcus, you're badass. I really appreciate you, Pepe. You guys, I love these Sunday sessions. I'm gonna feel it out because I'm leaving. I'm leaving for Bali in actually 2 weeks today. I'll be flying to Bali, so feel free to donate. You only have a week, really, because I have to withdraw the funds so that I can have the funds and make sure the funds can get to them. So I have to withdraw the funds probably like next week. So give yourself another week if you want to donate some cashola to the people, the sweet family in Lombok. These are people in the world that aren't corrupted by some of the stuff that we are, and like they're just super generous, simple people. You know what I'm talking about? Like people who live, the whole family lives together. The men might do building or this or that, but they pretty much just live off the land. They gave us so much, and this is one of those things, you guys. When you come from one of our like entitled white, we're like, no, I don't dare say white, but like just entitled culture and like society. Then you travel a bit and you go around to all these different places in the world, and like most of people on the planet, I swear to God, are just like simple, good-hearted people that want to eat and want to be around people they love, and that's about it. Like this insane capitalist kind of American dream. Oh, we're superstars. That is just fucking dying. Anywho, no more borders. I love it, Rochelle. I love all of you. Um, Thanks for joining me this morning, you guys. Let's just keep shining and keep being who we are unapologetically and keep loving the internet because I'm with you guys as far as like, I love it. I think it's so good. It's really transformed my life. At the same time, I am disciplined with it. I'll make sure if I start to feel a little bit like of ADHD, like I can't focus, I know that I have to spend at least a few hours away from any devices. And I'm another person who I tend to like turn airplane mode on. So I shut down the Wi-Fi kind of stuff in my house where possible. Do you guys want to see how cute my baby niece is? She's not really a baby anymore. She's a cute little adorbs creature. Look at that though. Is that not the cutest thing? Look at her. There's some Sunday sessions love vibration. You can share in my total aunt love for my niece, who hopefully, no, I'm definitely seeing her soon. Oh my God. Anyway, you guys, I love you so much. Have an awesome day. Happy Sunday, mofo lovers!